Okay, what we're working with now is section 10.5, angle relationships and circles. The first vocabulary word we have is interior angles. Interior angles are angles formed by intersecting chords. And so angle 1, angle 2, and then this angle, and then this angle are also, those are all interior angles. Okay? An angle measure is half the sum of their arcs. So we're going to do one for angle 1 and angle 2. So the measure of angle 1, the angle equals 1/2, and then it's going to be the sum of the two arcs made by angle 1. The best way to see this is here's angle 1, and angle 1 makes this arc, so AC, but then it's vertical, and so it also makes this arc, which is DB. So the angle equals half of the arcs, and you add that up. Okay. Let's try, oops, I didn't mean to, I'm going to do the highlighting, but that's okay. Why don't you try and see if you can figure out what angle 2 is? And when you think you got it, you can press play. So the measure of angle 2 is half the sum of the two arcs. Angle 2 is opposite this one. So it's AD, and that's vertical with this one, CB. So again, the angle equals half of the arcs, and you add them for interior. Our next vocabulary word we have is exterior. For exterior, it's the angle formed by secants that intersect the circle outside. Okay? You can also have a secant and a tangent, but it's just two lines that intersect. That's the main thing, two lines that intersect outside the circle. The angle is half the difference of the arc. And I just want to see something. Yeah. So half the difference. So this is angle 1. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 1/2. Okay, so angle 1 is this angle right here. And the arcs that make that angle are this one and this one. And so it's going to be the big arc, which is the farthest one away, AB, minus the closer one, EC. So it's 1/2 of the two arcs subtracted. Sometimes people get these confused. What I like to say is, since this angle down here was taken outside, I've taken it outside, I'm going to take away. So inside you add, outside you subtract. Okay. The next type of special angle we have is tangent angle. It's an angle formed by a tangent and chord. Not leave enough spaces today. And so the angle measure is half the arc. Okay, so here is my angle, angle 1. And so, change colors. The measure of angle 1 is equal to half of the arc. And the arc made by angle 1 is right here. So it's half of GH. I should put arcs above those things. I forgot to do that. Okay, measure of angle 2, it's the same thing, but this time angle 2 is on this left side, and so it's this left arc. And that's a major arc, so you're going to have to do 1/2 of the major arc, which is GJH. So if you have two angles inside, you're going to take half of their sum. If you have an angle on the outside, you're going to take half of the difference. And if it's on it, you're just going to take half of it. Okay? All right, so we need to go ahead and find these. I like to write the equation each time. I don't know this. So my angle equals half. Since it's on the inside, I'm going to add. My angle's right here. So that's this arc plus this arc on the right. And so now I'm going to do 175 plus 55. And so it's going to give me, oops, let's go down here. X is equal to 1/2 of 230. So X is 115. Okay. All right. This one here, this is X. I don't know this. My angle equals 1/2. And since this is outside, I'm going to take away. Outside, you take away. And so here's my big arc. Here's my small arc. So it'll be my big arc minus my, oops, that's not 150, it's 140, minus my small arc. So it's going to be 1/2 of 90. So that's going to be 45. So you're going to notice I keep saying my angle equals 1/2. Angle equals 1/2. And then from there you have to see if it's just half the arc, half of the sum, or half of the difference. What I'd like you to do is see if you can set up number 3. Once you think you have it, press play. All right, I got smaller, hold on. So for this one, there we go. It looks a little different because my angle is a number. But again, I keep saying my angle is 1/2. So my angle is 1/2. And my arcs are right here and here. So it's 1/2 of those two arcs. So now I could distribute the 1/2, but really that's kind of a pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of a divide by 2 by multiplying by 2. 85 times 2 is 170 is equal to X plus 70. And I'm going to minus 70 on both sides. So X is 100. But again, it's the angle equals 1/2. Angle equals 1/2. Okay? All right, looking at number 4, here's my X. My issue is I have to look opposite of that, so I can't find that. I can find something with that 76, so maybe we'll do that. The angle equals 1/2, and I don't want to put another variable, so it's 1/2 of EG. Well, to find out what EG is, I would get rid of a divide by 2 by multiplying by 2, and 76 times 2 is 152. Now that may not seem like it's very helpful, but what you should recognize is that you have a whole circle. And a whole circle is equal to 360. So I could do 360 minus 152. And then that's going to tell me that my arc I need is 208. The other way you could have done that is you could have said, oh, okay, let me erase something so it makes sense and you could see. You could have said that these two angles make a straight line. And you could have done 180 minus 76, so this is 104. And then this one would have been my angle equals 1/2. Oops. My angle equals 1/2 of the arc. And then I would get rid of a divide by 2 by multiplying by 2, and I would still get 208. So there's a couple different approaches you can have here. Okay, 5's the trickiest one on here, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up. Remember, it's angle equals 1/2. This is my angle. So my angle equals 1/2. Now, I'm supposed to subtract these things. The issue is I have no numbers, right? I have this big arc and then this little arc. What you should notice is that those arcs actually make the whole circle. So together they have to add up to 360. So if I say this one's X, then this one here is 360 minus X, because that's what's left over. So I'm going to do 360, I keep making my 360 minus X, but now I need to take away this one, minus this X. And again, that's tricky. That's as hard as it gets. So now I'm going to have 50 equals 1/2 of 360 minus 2X. Now I can get rid of the divide by 2, or I can distribute Either way it works. It's kind of up to you. Distributing works for this one because I can take half of 360, which is 180, and I can take half of 2, which is 1. So that one's not that bad. If I minus 180 on both sides, I get negative 130 equals negative 1x. And then I divide by negative 1, so x is 130. And so there's that answer. So it was tricky, but remember, just set it up. Your angle equals half. All right, 6 and 7 are complicated also, but again, focus on angle equals half. So for number 6, my angle equals half. And then for this one, I'm on the outside, so I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 12x plus 8 minus this other one. And the reason I put parentheses here is because I'm going to have to distribute that negative. Okay, let me insert some more space for us. It's a little crowded. Let's see if it'll stay. There we go. Okay, so now what happens when I distribute that negative, if I can get my pen to work, this becomes a minus 4x minus 4, right there. And then I bring down the 12x plus 8. And then I bring down everything else. And so I get 50 is equal to 1/2. 12x minus 4x is 8x. 8 minus 4 is 4. Now I can distribute my 1/2. Half of 8x is 4x. Half of 4 is 2. Minus 2 on both sides, and I get 48 is 4x. Divide by 4, and x is 12. So it seems tricky, but again, just set it up one step at a time. Angle equals half. All right, I'd like you to set up number 7 and see if you can get the equation. Once you think you have it, press play. Okay, so you should have said my angle equals half. Well, 124 is my angle. Angle equals half. Now, I'm either adding, subtracting, or it's just half. Well, this is on the inside, so I'm going to add them. So I'm going to add the 9x minus 3 and the 197. So I get 124 is equal to 1/2 of 9x, plus 194. Now, I can take half of 194, but I'm not going to take half of 9. It gives me a decimal, and that's just a little bit more work. So instead, this time I'm going to get rid of a divide by 2 by multiplying by 2. So I get 248 is equal to 9x plus 194. I'm going to do 248 minus 194, and that gives me 54. So 9x is 54. Divide by 9 on both sides, and I get 6. Okay, so these problems can be a little tricky. Just remember, it's your angle equals half. Angle equals half. And then you have to see if it's half of the arc, half of the sum of the arcs, or half of the difference of the arcs.